I didn't get to pick my walk-on music, but I liked it. Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Oregon Business and Industry, or OBI, in addition to being the statewide Chamber of Commerce, is also Oregon's affiliate for the National Association of Manufacturers. So we are very proud to be part of the conversation this morning about manufacturing's significant role in driving Oregon's economy and our shared prosperity. Last year, OBI and OBC released a study on the economic impacts of manufacturing in Oregon. The whole report is available at OregonBusinessIndustry.com, but I want to just point out three quick things to help set the stage for our conversation this morning. First, manufacturing is highly productive economically. That means its relative share of GDP, which is $33 billion annually in Oregon, outpaces its relative share of jobs. And that means that investments in manufacturing can reap significant positive economic returns for the state and the communities in which our manufacturers operate. Second, manufacturing creates great jobs, and you heard Remy talk about this a little bit ago. Manufacturing wages are 17% higher than median wages in all other sectors, and they exceed educational attainment gap wages at every stage of educational attainment. Finally, Oregon, if it chooses to do so, is well positioned to leverage the national conversation about domestic manufacturing. While nationally, we saw a decline of 34% in manufacturing jobs across the United States over the last 50 years, in Oregon, that number went up by 14%. We have history, we have geography, we have creativity on our side, but we have to choose to leverage the moment. With all of that, you'd think that support for manufacturing is kind of a no-brainer. And yet, as we traveled 2,000 miles around Oregon this summer on our inaugural manufacturing bus tour, we heard from small and large manufacturers from every sector in all parts of the state recognize those opportunities, but acknowledge that they face very significant challenges. So to help provide a little bit of insight into what those challenges and opportunities are and how they impact at least one enduring Oregon manufacturing company, I'd like to welcome Tamara Lundgren, CEO, Chairman, and President of Schnitzer Steel Industries. SSI is familiar to many of you, but you might not know that it is one of the leaders in sustainable metals production, and it's one of the largest publicly traded manufacturers and exporters of recycled metals. So Tamara is here to offer yes, it's definitely worth applause. Tamara is here to offer some perspective, not only as a respected global CEO, but also as chairman of the board for the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, a unique turn these last few years, I'm sure, and a member of many nonprofit, corporate, and educational boards, including, I just want to point out, the President's Advisory Council on Trade and Policy, to which she was appointed by a Democratic and a Republican president, which I think we can all agree is probably not terribly common these days. So thank you for your time this morning. Like I said, many people here are familiar with the Schnitzer name and brand, but why don't we start by just having you tell us a little more about what you do and why you do it here in Oregon.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm delighted to be here this morning. So Schnitzer was founded in 1906, and we started as a metals recycling company. And that is still at the core of what we do. We recycle about 5 million metric tons of metal every year, and that's primarily steel, aluminum, and copper. And people may say, well, who really cares about metals recycling? Why is it important? Well, first of all, metal is really important. You can't have a car, you can't have a bike, you can't have an appliance, you can't have an iPhone if you don't have metal. And metal recycling is very important because steel, most people don't know that steel is the most recycled commodity in the world. There's more steel that's recycled annually than paper, plastic, glass, and aluminum every year. And it doesn't degrade when it is recycled. So when you make steel products using recycled metal, it has a much lower carbon impact. It saves tremendous amounts of energy and water versus mining virgin ore. And what also people don't know is that 70% of the steel made in the US is made with recycled metal, and 100% of the steel made in Oregon is made with recycled metal. So our steel mill, Cascade in McMinnville, manufactures finished steel products using 100% recycled metal that we source primarily from our recycling facilities in Oregon. And it's also powered by hydroelectricity, which together with the recycled metal makes it some of the lowest carbon impact steel in the world. And just this past spring, we launched a new set of products called Green Steel, which is our net zero carbon emissions steel products, which again is extraordinarily competitive and relatively unique in terms of product offering. So I've said many times that our company, and you heard the mayor just before me, I've said many times that our company has been about sustainability before sustainability was coined as a term. It's at the core of what we do and how we operate, and has been since our founding 116 years ago.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, definitely worth applause. So we'll come back to Oregon in a second, but you are a global company. And one of the things I love about manufacturers, and we saw this on our bus tour when we stopped at your facility, thank you for the hospitality, is at their core, manufacturers are problem solvers and innovators, continuously adapting to the changing demands of customers, the changing environment in which they're working. And so that's resulted in there have been a lot of shifts lately in manufacturing. So let's start a little more globally. How do you see manufacturing globally shifting?
So there are two major trends that I see in manufacturing that are really impacting most manufacturers, irrespective of where you are in the world. One is shorter supply chains, and one is decarbonization. The shorter supply chains is really a risk management change, because people are focused, and probably always should have been, but there have just been more activities that have disrupted supply chains, whether it's due to weather, whether it's due to transportation issues, health issues like the pandemic, labor issues, or just generally geopolitical instability. So shorter supply chains are really important, and you see people doing that, which is driving more onshoring, reshoring, more manufacturing activity. The second is decarbonization. And you hear decarbonization a lot. What does that actually really mean? But combined with shorter supply chains is what is really driving this new industrial revolution in the US and globally, or this manufacturing renaissance. And it's being very much supported by the Biden administration through the Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Buy Clean provisions. But I'll bring it home and tell you, how do we, Schnitzer, how are we impacted by decarbonization? So low carbon technologies like electric vehicles, solar, wind, all those technologies are more metal intensive than the technologies that they're replacing. So there's more metal in there's more metal in an electric vehicle than there is in a gas-powered vehicle. There's more metal in solar and wind and other renewable technologies, in battery storage. So there's a shortage. For example, right now, there's a structural world shortage in copper. So how can we at least alleviate, if not eliminate, that shortage? And you do that by recycling. You do that by recycling metal, which, as I said before, you can recycle infinitely. So that's what we're doing. And by using recycled metal, you are definitely reducing carbon impact. And you see companies around the world who are very focused on understanding the environmental impact of their supply chain. And they're very interested in making sure that they're utilizing as much sustainable materials as they can in order to achieve their own carbon reduction targets. So these two trends, I think, are the biggest drivers in manufacturing right now, and are serving as the structural tailwind to increasing manufacturing.
Yeah, and what's so interesting there is that as we look to the future and talk about the advanced technologies and systems and processes that we all want to strive for in the years and decades to come, we still need to look back to our roots at a company that's been around more than 100 years and fundamentally what it's doing in that advanced manufacturing and applied manufacturing. So I think that's a terrific lesson for everyone. So let's shift a little bit to Oregon. Many people in this room might know, but a lot of Oregonians don't realize the storied history the state has with manufacturing and the success stories and how big of a part of the state's economy it is. And yet, at the same, what we're seeing a lot maybe as a result of that is a shift in attitude toward manufacturing, and some of it's related to what I just said, kind of wanting to look forward and not necessarily recognize the past. And we run into that in the policymaking arena especially. So from your perspective, is Oregon a place that is ready to own its place in the global manufacturing economy? What is that place? Are we a state that attracts manufacturers? Should we be? What's your take on that from a?
So historically, Oregon has been. I mean, there's just a phenomenal legacy that this state has because of its people, its resources, its location. And I do think that the culture of respect, if you will, that manufacturing used to attract and used to be foundational has definitely slipped away. And I think Oregon is poised to recapture that and shouldn't let it slip away. I think that our company, for example, and there are many companies in Oregon that are like this, I think Schnitzer is a great example of an old economy company, an old Oregon economy company that is leading the way to the new economy, to the new low carbon technology company. Because, as I said, if we don't have metal, if we don't have copper, if we don't have aluminum, if we don't have steel, there's no way we're transitioning to a low carbon economy. So let's recycle. So what Oregon has to do, because it's much more competitive than it was 50 years ago in terms of manufacturing, and you've heard this now from several people who've been on the stage today, that every state recognizes how powerful and how positive bringing and creating a manufacturing base is. The jobs are well paying. For every manufacturing job, there are 2 times the number of indirect jobs that are supported by that, or that support that manufacturing job. And so there's a lot of competition, and because there are new technologies that are being developed, they can be put anywhere in the country. And so you've got to compete for them. You've got to retain what you have, and you've got to attract new. And I think that to do that, you have to focus on workforce. You have to focus on workforce development. You have to focus on a land use framework that attracts growth, that attracts business growth. I think that you have to focus on streamlining permitting and having a clear and collaborative regulatory environment. And I think that you've got to be competitive on taxes, both personal taxes and corporate taxes.
Yeah. So you may have, I think you just touched on some of this, but I'm going to ask you to go a little deeper. So what opportunities and are there for you, and why do you want to grow business in Oregon at Schnitzer? But also the flip side, what challenges are you facing as you seek to do that?
So we want to grow in Oregon. I mean, we've got this fantastic company with a fantastic history. I mean, I've got 100 facilities across the country, but we've got, our history is here. And there's so many new technologies that we are developing and getting involved in the metals recycling space that we'd love to continue to grow here. And we've got a great workforce. Cascade, for example, 50% of it is union, 50% non-union. Very, very well-paying jobs, way above the industry average or the country's average for manufacturing jobs. And we're the largest employer in McMinnville. We just have a real impact in the communities where we develop and where we operate. So we would like to be here, and I think that Oregon is poised to be a leader in this new low carbon economy.
Yeah. So we have just a couple of minutes left, and one thing I want to point out from the tour that we learned about the Cascade facility is the amount of intergenerational employment that you have, which I think,
yes.
Congratulations to you and your team, because that speaks so highly of the type of place it is to work and the ethos and the community spirit you have, that you have generations coming back to work for you. So I just wanted to add that. So you have a lot of folks in the audience, and including here and there some policymakers. We have in January a new governor taking office, a number of new legislators taking office. So what message do you want to give to them as they're thinking about their agendas and priorities for the session and beyond?
So you've heard a lot from the people who preceded me. So let me again bring it back to us and how I lead our company. So our sustainability strategy is based on 3 pillars: people, planet, and profit. And what that means is that every decision that we make considers those 3 elements. And when you walk through the Portland airport, you see the gift shop. All of you have been through there. You've seen the gift shop Made in Oregon. And I actually think that customers who see Made in Oregon also think people, planet, and profit. I think instinctively they think Oregon's a place with great people, or they wouldn't be visiting and working here. Oregon clearly has a reputation of respecting the environment. And businesses in Oregon are known for innovation, for great brands, for inspiring legacies. So you have a people, planet, profit embedded in that. And I'd like us to reinvigorate and have the state reinvigorate that Made in Oregon brand and make Oregon a place where manufacturing can thrive and can grow. And I think to do that, we go back to workforce development, land use planning, competitive tax rates, streamlining permitting and regulation, and knowing that the White House, the Biden administration, is pushing really hard on a manufacturing renaissance, that the global transition to low carbon technologies is driving that need. So let's not let these opportunities pass us by.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, thank you so much for your perspectives. I know we're the last thing before a break, so we'll wrap it up. But I just want to close by, again, recognizing the impact that Schnitzer and companies like it have had on Oregon as a whole, the communities in which you operate, and the employees that you provide jobs for. I mean, it's a true success story, and we need to be looking. I was kind of thinking of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and it's kind of like here, the old dog can teach us all some new tricks and how to move forward. And we need to remove bottlenecks. We need to foster innovation and investment. We need to figure out how to really believe and put policy behind economic development and workforce development, and a host of other aspects to the policy work and the framework that can, like you said, reinvigorate the economy. At OBI, we always like to remind people that everything we want to accomplish as a society, whether that's greater individual prosperity or robust philanthropy or the tax revenue necessary for critical government services, all of that is predicated on a healthy private sector economy, and our manufacturers play a huge role in that economy, but they're a piece of it. So I would just like to extend my personal thanks to all of you who own, operate, and work in businesses every day that help drive the state's economy and lift up our shared prosperity. So thank you to everyone. And Tamara, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.